Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is truly the masterwork of the Zelda franchise, at least in terms of beauty. But one thing in particular stands out to me as the pinnacle of beauty in this game. And that one thing is the grass. I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. Grass in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom truly amazes me. The use of culling and LODs to make the game perfectly render millions of blades of grass at once just astonishes me. I'll do a brief explanation on how both LODs and culling works, starting with culling. Culling simply makes it so the game only renders what's in the player's view, getting rid of anything outside of a player's view as well as objects behind other objects. As for LODs, LOD stands for level of detail. Simply put, the further away from a player something is, the lower quality it is. For example, this tree. Okay, now that we're all caught up on what makes Tears of the Kingdom's grass so cool to me, let's jump right into the meat of it. Today I just really wanted to show you guys my favorite spots in Tears of the Kingdom. Spots that I often visit whenever I boot up the game and I'm just in the vibe to chill out and wander around. The first spot I absolutely love to visit in Tears of the Kingdom is of course the initial Sky Island you drop into when you're just starting the game. It's a very nostalgic spot. From the giant pond that you dive into at the beginning of the game to those beautiful yellow trees. The Sky Island is just full of ethereal scenery I catch myself visiting all the time, just reminiscing about when Tears of the Kingdom first dropped and me and some of my buds played the game on call together, sharing the excitement of the game. But while my friends were celebrating the shrines and the new abilities, I was silently celebrating the brand new grass color, a glowing yellow foliage flowing thousands of feet above the ground, a sight much welcomed and adored. But with this new addition to the grass color repertoire, there's one important decision to make, and I've made my choice. My favorite blade of grass on this Sky Island is this one right here. My reason for choosing this piece of grass is simply that it is a new color of grass, and also this exact spot is the perfect vantage spot to view the entire Sky Island in all of its glory. This blade stands strong at its post, guarding my observation spot, and for that, I'm gonna give it an easy S tier. You've earned it, little guy. Alright, now let's take a small trip back to the surface of Hyrule to our next spot, the Wrist Peninsula. A beautiful spiraling peninsula just off of Malin Bay, extending out into the Akala Sea. An extremely alluring spiritual location that I'm always drawn towards every time I play the game. The jutting, damaged pillars piercing through the earth, the soft sand and large spiral shape and persistent grass still poking out from the ground despite the entire formation consisting of just sand. This spot truly just brings me a sense of peace that you can't find in any other game. And let's not forget the beautiful growth of silent princesses that emerge as you progress a little further into the game. And for me, this piece of grass right here is my favorite blade of grass in this location, simply because it is at the very center of the peninsula and has a very spiritual vibe to it, although it's not all perfection with this grass. As you can very easily tell, the peninsula grass is significantly shorter than your average Hyrule Poisier, which to me takes away a lot of the potential beauty. I much prefer a long flowing grass. And for this very reason alone, this blade of grass is going to be getting the very first D tier I've ever given on a grass tier list. Sorry Peninsula fans, it's just not up to my standards. As we make our way towards our next location, we find ourselves descending into the depths of Hyrule. The barren, dreary counterpart to the surface of Hyrule sits just below the sun-soaked land, signs of life being little to none. But despite the depressing, dank ambience of the depths, one spot still shows signs of promise: the secret spring of revival. An underground hot spring with invigorating properties. This spot may not look like much at first, but it truly is more than meets the eye, as this hot spring corresponds with a very special location on the surface, the Shrine of Resurrection. Not only that, but there's massive beautiful flora nearby growing all around. The water itself looks stunning, and the particles all around are truly beautiful. But where's the grass? Well, it's actually all around, but it's a very strange color. As we make our way over to my usual spot I like to chill, you'll notice that there is grass, but it's blue and white grass. Isn't that just cool? I absolutely love how unique this grass is here, and picking my favorite blade of grass in this location was just so easy. I choose this blade right here, and my reasoning for that is honestly just because this is where the white grass mixes with the blue grass, and I just adore the way that it looks. And I chose the blue blade over a white blade because there's actually already white grass somewhere else on the surface of Hyrule, but we'll get to that later. For me, this blade of grass is an easy S tier due to how truly unique it is. And I know in the last video I said I wouldn't do this, but bills are getting kind of high, so... If you thought the depths was an unlikely spot to find grass, wait till you see the next location I frequent during my Hyrule sightseeings, cause we're making our way over to the Elden region. Just north of the Elden Canyon lies a beautiful vantage point that I prefer over any other spot in Elden. The jutting mound has a perfect view of Death Mountain that is truly breathtaking, and the surrounding rock formations are absolutely wild, some of the coolest geography in all of Hyrule. And just to the west, you can find a patch of hot springs shimmering in a perfect shade of teal. But to me, what makes this spot truly incredible is that even in the barren wastelands of Elden, where the heat of the environment can burn you alive and wildlife runs thin, you can still find the glorious foliage that is grass. This patch of grass right here has an absolutely magnificent view of Death Mountain, especially this blade right here, as it's where I stand to get the perfect view of Death Mountain when I'm not standing on my usual vantage point. This blade of grass is going to be getting a B tier. It's getting a B tier as it's a fairly average looking piece of grass, but it wasn't bumped any lower due to its sheer resilience. We now make our way over to a polar opposite environment on the other side of the map, in the North Tabantha snowfield, over at the Birth of the Demon King tier. The Birth of the Demon King tier is a unique place in which there really isn't anything unique going on in the surroundings. Nothing encircling it aside from two mountains that lay by its sides. So why am I here? Well, the beauty of this place doesn't really come from the surroundings. It comes from the life that sprouts in this area, in spite of its harsh conditions. From the grove of trees encircling a Korok to the varied wildlife is what makes this place so special to me. It's simple, and it's beautiful because of its simplicity. And again, there's still somehow a nice view of Death Mountain, which lays in the background. In such a snowy area, how could there possibly be grass? Well, remember earlier how I mentioned in the depths that white grass already existed? Well, if you get a little closer, you'll actually see the entire field is covered in glowing white grass. Somehow, in such a harsh environment, grass persists and stands strong. I find it to be absolutely stunning and a bit inspiring. It reminds me that no matter what you're going through, you can always persist and always power through. And my favorite strand of grass in this location is this blade right here, because I saw a fox spawn here. Yeah, that's my reason. If you have a problem with it, say something in the comments. I promise I will have something to say about it. To be honest though, this grass is only getting a C tier, mainly because it's a lot harder to see against the snowy environment than regular grass is. It's still really cool grass nonetheless. With only 2 spots left, we now make our way over to Lanayru, to a beautiful location called the Spring of Wisdom. The Spring of Wisdom is one of the most beautiful locations in the game, from the spires of ice encircling the spring popper to the frigid water flowing all around. It makes it hard to believe that life can flourish in an environment this harsh, but in spite of that, the grass still grows. The state of the spring itself is in ruin, yet still looks strikingly beautiful in contrast to the surrounding area. This statue is also one with relevance to the story, as it unlocks a side quest, and for those of you who remember, this is a spot where you free Nadra in the previous game. I also found a dumb bitch NPC stalking me for no reason. Nonetheless, this location radiates true beauty and grace, and I just can't help but to visit and reminisce about Breath of the Wild's Dragon Quest. I'm going to keep this one very short and sweet as there isn't much to say. It's just a beautiful spot in general with beautiful grass. My favorite piece being this one right here, as it's at the perfect spot to just observe the ethereal beauty that is the Spring of Wisdom. This blade of grass gets an easy A tier just for being placed so perfectly to view such a magnificent location. And finally, we arrive at the final spot, the Spring of Power in Akkala. The Spring of Power is kinda awesome. It's one of the only places in the game where you can offer an item to a statue of Hylia in order to unlock a side quest, which to me just kinda calls on to good memories. This spring is also unique to the vibe of Akkala, since Akkala is a mostly autumn-focused region, which to me makes it really stand out. Its striking beauty in the fact that it's one of the only grass locations that is underwater makes it truly special. From the tertiary color theme of the lily pads representing the different springs and different powers on the Triforce, to the waterfalls behind beautifully contrasting the rest of the region truly makes this a special spot. But hold up, did I say underwater grass? Yeah, the grass here is actually underwater and it looks super cool. The vibe is completely unique from the rest of the grass in the game and I actually adore it. It's such a cool vibe and I could just sit here all day staring at the flowing grass encompassed by flowing water. Picking a blade of grass here is so damn tricky, but I'm just gonna pick this one right here because I found myself accidentally staring at this spot for just way too long. And for me, this spot gets an A tier because it's just so damn unique. I can't stop looking at the grass here. I really can't. Okay, before I go on gushing about the grass at this spot all day, I just wanted to close this off by saying I really do love grass, especially interesting grass. I hope you do too. Thanks for listening to me this whole time, and see you later.